Hey, how you doing? This is just a quick preview of some quick tips of the Punch Drunk project for After Effects. When you open up the project, let's take a look first starting in the left-hand corner up in the project box over here. So in the comps folder, you're going to see all the comps that are inside the project. So you have 24 there. Next, you're going to see your placeholder pre-comps. So you can double click here and replace your video photos. Next, you're going to see the folder for the text pre-comps. And this is just one pre-comp. It's a depth of field matte that I use throughout the project for a lens blur effect. Then number 5 is the mattes folder, and inside there I just organized and placed each light matte within the project for you so those are ready to go. And then you have your textures folder, and you're going to see that you have a setting for both 1080p as well as 720p. So I'm just going to start with taking a look at some of these comps and going through some features. So I'm just going to double click on comp 1 for a minute, and you're going to notice that within a lot of these comps you're going to have a text pre-comp or your placeholder. If you just wanted to change your text in that pre-comp, all you have to do is double click either on the pre-comp in the project, or you can go up to the project box, go into your change text here folder and find the pre-comp, text pre-comp you want to change, and you just double click there and it'll open you up to your text pre-comp. Change this, and of course once it's changed it will update in your regular comp there. Okay, so now I'm going to go into comp number 5 for a minute for this example. And as I was saying, you're going to see in a majority of these compositions either a text pre-comp or the placeholders that are going to have a duplicate above or below it, and you'll see the tag in there, particles. So this is where the particles sit for, in this case, the text pre-comp. You have options in CC Particle World. To start, in this case, if I want to increase this, you can see that in the keyframing, the particles begin very low, and then the middle keyframe here is where it goes very high up to about 500. So if I were just to bump this number up even higher, you're going to see that the amount of particles increases greatly. Okay, so you can of course increase the amount of particles or decrease. Now the other thing you want to be aware of right below it is the longevity. So that's roughly how long these particles are going to last as they're born to when they die. Okay, so if you wanted to increase the speed of how fast these particles pump up or die down, you just want to, in this case, decrease how long they live. So you can also experiment with the radius X, Y, or Z, and that will expand out your particle spread. Now, one other thing I want to point out, you're going to notice on all the text within the composition, in this case I'm just going to go to comp number 9, and within all these compositions where you see the text pre-comps, if you highlight the pre-comp, you're going to notice that I've applied either some type of blur on there, very lightly. It's just to soften up the harshness of the text. You can of course shut that off, delete it if you wish. I just like to add a little bit of a blur just to kind of soften up the text. Now with the placeholders, no different than the text pre-comps that contain particles. In this case, just going back to comp number 5 for a minute, I'm going to go to the placeholder, and you're going to see right there that there's also a duplicate called placeholder particles. So again, if I go into the timeline, I go to the birth rate, and I can just bump up the birth rate of these particles to something ridiculous like 5,000. You're going to see that it greatly increases the amount of particles. So if you want that type of effect, if you want more particles, just bump up the birth rate. If you want to decrease that, of course, just take the value down, and you're going to get less particles being born there. Now, quickly, when you want to change your video or photo, just double click on the placeholder, and in this case I'm just going to switch this photo to a photo here. So I've gone from this extreme silhouette to this glamour shot here. So you can see there's a little bit of a difference than what the silhouette gave us. So you might just need to tweak the how you place the video or photo that you have. So if I just go back and move this around and just looking to see where the best placement for this is, and probably bring this down a little bit, and so now I'm getting a little bit of edging at the end of the frame that I didn't see before with the silhouette shot. So if you do get something like this, you know, it's just that I got to adjust the camera null. So in the majority of the comps, you're going to see that you have a 3D camera, and the camera is going to be attached to a camera null. And all I want to do in this case is I'm just going to readjust the position. So I'm just going to reposition the camera quickly so I can just get the edge of that frame out of the way. Now in this case, you can see that the glow effect is kind of washing out the shot. So again, if you have a lighter shot, be it a video or photo, and you see that it's getting overblown like it is in this case, you just want to either readjust the glow setting that's on the placeholder or the text. You can either delete it, of course, if you need to. I'm just going to play around with the blending modes, you know, get a little bit of a difference. Okay, so these are just some things I want to point out. Blending modes, experiment with those, adjusting your particles, the birth rate, and of course, some simple effects like the glows that are placed on either the text or the placeholders that you may or may not have to adjust. And finally, you're going to notice in many of these comps, along with the 3D camera, you're going to also see a layer called lens blur. And what that is just kind of a depth of field effect. However, you're going to notice that there is an option in the lens blur for a blur focal distance. And that is where the area of the blur is pointing to. I should say the point of focus is pointing to. So if I move the focal distance over here, you're going to see that it's now focused more on the left side of the area. However, do note that my titles are still in focus regardless of the blur. And that's because the text pre-comps and the particle text pre-comps are above my lens blur layer. So watch, if I drag and drop these below the lens blur layer, now they're going to be out of focus, okay, because they're underneath the lens blur as opposed to on top. So now if I go ahead and adjust the focal distance, and now I bring it over to a smaller value, you're going to see it's focusing more on the text, and the right side is more out of focus. And of course, what you can do is just readjust the blur radius so that, you know, if you tone that value down, it's not going to be as blurry. Or you can make it more blurry, whatever you choose. But again, I just want to point these features out. Just a quick note, I've had customers in the past who have had CS5, and for whatever reason, they don't have the lens blur plugin. Now, this should come with CS5. If for whatever reason your lens blur plugin is missing, just please contact me, and I'll happily send it over for you, and you can just drag and drop it into your plugin folder. Otherwise, hopefully this helped you out, and if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. And in the meantime, I hope you enjoy Punch Drunk, Volume 2 of the new Lightworks collection.